All right, today we are diving headfirst into one of the oldest and honestly, one of the most mind-bending questions in all of philosophy. We're talking about the relationship between your mind and your body. It's a real head-scratcher, so let's get into it.
I mean, really think about that for a second. You just decide to raise your hand. And poof, it happens. An invisible, weightless, totally non-physical idea somehow tells your very physical muscles and bones what to do? How on earth does that work? This simple little action we do every day? Yeah, that's the heart of a massive philosophical puzzle.
So, to really get a grip on this problem, we need to look at the two, let's call them suspects in this case, as laid out by the famous philosopher René Descartes. He drew a really sharp line in the sand, dividing the mental from the physical. So this idea from Descartes, it's called Cartesian Dualism. And it's not just saying that the mind and body are different, like how an arm is different from a leg. No, it's saying they are made of completely different stuff, like two totally separate realms of reality that just happen to exist together in you.
And look at how total this separation is. For Descartes, the mind's entire job, its very essence, is thinking. It doesn't have a location in space, it doesn't have a size, it has zero physical properties. Then you've got the body. Its essence is just extension. It's a physical object that takes up space, but it doesn't think. Their very natures are, by definition, completely incompatible.
Okay, so if you have these two totally separate things, well, that sharp division leads us right to the scene of our philosophical crime, the moment where these two supposedly separate substances are supposed to interact. And there it is. That question is the whole causal interaction objection in a nutshell. If the mind doesn't have any physical properties, it has no hands, no levers, no mass, how can it possibly push or pull on the physical world? It's kind of like asking how a ghost could drive a car. It just doesn't make sense.
So this creates a huge dilemma, right? We all know our thoughts cause our actions. That's just a basic fact of being alive. But if you're a dualist, the actual mechanism for this is a total mystery. The interaction seems to break every rule we know about physical cause and effect. It makes it look either flat-out impossible or like some kind of unexplained magic.
But hold on. Here's where our investigation takes a really fascinating turn. What if the problem isn't actually with the mind or the body? What if the real culprit here is that we've all been taking one crucial concept completely for granted?
This is the key. That whole objection we've been talking about, this impossible connection, it gets all of its power from a hidden assumption we have about what it even means for one thing to cause another. So to solve this mystery, we got to investigate the idea of causation itself.
Okay, so philosophers have come up with a few different ways to think about causation. We're going to look at three of the big ones. Think of them like different forensic techniques we can use to analyze our mind-body problem.
First up, you've got the rational view. Now, this is probably the one that feels most intuitive to us. It says that for A to cause B, there has to be some kind of understandable, logical connection between them. Think of two billiard balls hitting each other. We get it. We understand the transfer of energy. But for a dualist, this view is absolutely devastating because there is no logical, understandable bridge between something non-physical and something physical.
Okay, next up is the brute view. This theory basically says, hold on a minute. It argues that causal laws are just fundamental rules of the universe. We don't need to understand why gravity works on some deep logical level. We just accept that it's a brute fact that it does. And from this perspective, hey, a non-physical mind affecting a physical body? That could just be another one of those brute facts.
And finally, we've got the Humean view. This one is the most stripped down of all. It says that causation is just a label we stick on patterns we observe. When you decide to raise your hand, does your hand consistently go up? Yep. Well, for a Humean, that's the end of the story. That is causation. The pattern is all there is to it.
So we have our three different tools for understanding causation. Now for the climax of our investigation. Let's apply each one of these theories directly to the mind-body problem and see what happens to that impossible connection.
And this is where it all comes together. Check this out. If you're on team rational view, where causation needs that logical link, then yeah, mind-body interaction is impossible. The objection wins, case closed. But if you take the brute view, suddenly it becomes possible in principle. It could just be another weird fact about our universe. And if you take the Humean view, it's not even a problem. It's just another predictable pattern, like all the others.
You see, this is the big reveal. The causal interaction objection isn't some standalone argument that just demolishes dualism on its own. Nope. It's an argument that borrows all of its muscle from one very specific and highly debatable view of what causation even is.
So, where does that leave us? After looking at all the evidence and the different ways to interpret it, what's the final verdict on this classic philosophical challenge?
Well, the verdict is that the objection is strong for sure, but it's not decisive. It's really powerful because it points to this deep, profound mystery right at the heart of the dualist view. But it's not a knockout blow. Why? Because to land that punch, you first have to prove that the rational view of causation is the only correct one. And that, my friends, is a whole other debate that has no clear winner.
And so we're left with this massive question. The problem of how a simple thought moves an arm does way more than just challenge one philosophical theory. It forces all of us to confront our most basic ideas about cause and effect. And it really makes you wonder, if the puzzle of our own consciousness is a sign that we need a fundamentally new way of looking at reality itself.